don't care. Okay, Linda, we don't have any communications on the agenda. Has anything else come in?
No, there's nothing new.
Okay. And then we need to approve the minutes from our public workshop and executive session from November 13th, 2017, and the regular public and executive session meeting from November 20th, 2017. Can I get a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? No? Linda, could we get a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. Simoresti?
Yes?
Ms. Gowan? Yes. Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden T. Nicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Okay. We have a solitary student report this evening.
Yes.
Hello, solitary student.
Julia was not feeling well tonight, so it will just be me. So to begin in Irving, Irving will have their winter sing-along and parties on Friday. We have a lot from Bartle. Bartle Student Book Club is expected to start the Kid Who Ran for President and the Flat Stanley is Flat Again series. They average 25 students each month, and the students meet monthly to discuss the books. The Bartle Student Council's Wrap It Up was a huge success with over 50 gifts being wrapped by student council leaders. The Bartle Winter Concert for parents is on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. and Friday there will be a winter music assembly for the staff and students. Mr. Benjamin is also having a staff holiday appreciation holiday luncheon for teachers and staff for all they do. And Mr. Benjamin and Mrs. Kirk took parents to visit the fifth grade Camp Mason site to start the new camp, which is so exciting. The first ever Bartle Epic cookie swap at Bartle was a huge success with prizes given to teachers for unique cookie types. And the Bartle Epic Math Night was a blast with nearly 100 parents and students in attendance. Parents expressed to Mr. Benjamin that they love all the amazing family-oriented events Bartle continues to have for them. We don't have a report from the middle school, unfortunately, but in the high school, Student Congress is hosting their second Spirit Week this week. Today was Pajama Day, tomorrow will be Twin Day, Wednesday is Wacky Sock Wednesday, Thursday is Throwback Decades Day, and Friday is Holiday/Ugly Sweater Day. Participation is not being counted for grade points this week, so the students are just enjoying a relaxing week. There will be a winter pep rally this Friday. Sports teams and clubs will be celebrated, and students will enjoy performances by the band, choir, a mandala, and K-pop club. DECA is currently running a book drive until February. The proceeds are going towards Bridge of Books. They are also looking forward to their regional competition on January 4th. And finally, students and faculty are looking forward to the winter breaks and holidays.
I bet they are. All right. Thank you very much, Olivia. Does anybody have any questions for Olivia tonight? No? All right. So we move on to Dr. Taylor's report then.
Thank you, members of the board. I'm going to step up to the podium and ask our athletic coordinator, Craig Gervin, and Mr. Lassiter, our high school principal, to join me at the podium. It's this time of the year that we recognize standout coaches and athletes and their parents and guardians. Thanks for those who braved a little warmer kind of winter weather today to come out. But I know it's a busy time, and I appreciate you being here. Also, our coaches and the gentleman behind me, very much thank you for being here. This time I'm going to have Mr. Lassiter come to the podium. He'll say a few words about some of our coaches and athletes. And we're going to be handing out certificates, and I'm going to ask the board president to join me, and we'll take some photos. Those parents or guardians who were here as subs for their kids because they're busy or tied up, you're welcome to come up and accept the certificate on their behalf. Mr. Lassiter.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. First of all, thank you all for being here. The fall season was really, really historical here in Highland Park. Both our soccer programs, our cross-country program, they all did amazing things. And so I'm going to actually give the mic to Mr. Gervin, who can give all the details of this fantastic season, because there was just too many accomplishments for me to keep track of.
A quick rundown for the fall sports. The boys soccer team, for the first time in Highland Park history, won a Central Jersey Group 1 title, so that was a huge accomplishment. They also set a school record for wins, I believe. They were 17-3-1. The girls soccer team was also a fantastic season, taking a school record. They were 17-3. In only their second season, the girls volleyball team was 14-3. They did a very nice job. The cross-country teams, boys and girls, lost one meet apiece. And I'm going to forget the tennis team also had a fantastic season, 18-3. Only lost twice to Metuchen and once to the state champion New Providence. So fantastic season for all of the fall sports teams. So it was congratulations to all of them. I want to start with a few of the coaches that are here. One guy I think we should recognize with some special recognition, had the best season in Highland Park history, and he was rewarded as not only the division, not only the county, but also the small school state coach of the year. I'd like him to come up and talk a little bit about his team, and that's Coach Keith Roig.
We just had an amazing year this year I'll never forget. 17 wins, 4 losses, 1 tie, and we were Central Jersey champs. Just coach an amazing group of kids and soccer players and young men. So proud of them. To get the recognition in our county and in the state was truly nice, and just an incredible group of guys. Should I call the all division players up? So, oh yeah, sure. Sure. And if all our boys, all division players, come on up. So a special year this year, we had 5 players from Highland Park who made all blue division, which is pretty remarkable. Ethan Gildenberg, our attacking midfielder, 10th grader, was recognized as one of the best players in our division, led our team in assists, 2nd, I believe, on goals. Felix Rojas, our defensive midfielder, a real important player on our team, skillfully, a captain of our team, great player. And Alon Isaacson, our goalie, he's had 7 shutouts, the best player, the best goalkeeper in the blue division. And although he's not here, Jonah Bieberman set school record with 82 goals, 82 goals in his career, 36 this year, first team all-county, first team all-state, Group 1. So just an incredible year, and I thank you, Mr. Gervin, an incredible athletic director. Thank everyone. It's just been a great year. Thanks, everybody.
Join the picture. We just spoke about you. Give a round of applause for Jonah again.
Next up, I would like to call Coach Tim Stark of the cross-country team. They not only had a fantastic season, but also demonstrated great sportsmanship, and they won the Division Sportsmanship Award, which is a nice accomplishment. So, Coach Tim Stark.
We also had 4 athletes that were honored with awards this year. On the girls' side, both were first-year runners. Talia Fishman and Bella Godish made all blue division. We had someone, I don't see him here, but Peter Tilton was named to the all blue division, all county and all state. He set a school record at Thompson Park in GMCs when he finished 4th, and he set a school record at Homedale Park when he also finished 4th in the Group 1 state race. And finally, we have Jonas Silverman, who is here, who was on the all-blue division team and finished 9th place in the Central Jersey Group 1 race. Jonah, coming up.
Okay, I don't think any more of the coaches are here, so I'll talk again briefly about the girls tennis team. They had a fantastic season, 18-3, 2 tough losses to Metuchen, and they lost to a really, really good team in the state tournament this year who ended up winning the whole thing, New Providence. But they had a fantastic season. They had a number of girls that achieved all division awards. The first girl who was the team MVP, I believe she went 21-2 and just did a fantastic job. She won an epic 3-set match against Metuchen that was the stuff of legends. But anyway, an all-division tennis player for the first time, Rachel Powlin. Also all-division in tennis, Louise Liu, Tiffany Liang, and Diana Chiss. Unfortunately, in volleyball this year, we weren't officially part of the conference. We had to wait 2 years to get in, so we didn't get any individual awards. But again, I'd like to commend them on a fantastic season. They were 14-3 in only their second year, and they don't have any seniors, so we're looking for big things for them in the next year, and hopefully we'll bring home a lot of these all-division and possibly all-county and maybe even all-state awards. So they had a great season, so let's clap it up for them. All right, I think that brings us to last but not least, certainly girls soccer. They had a fantastic season, 17-3, set a school record for wins. Again, they were 17-5 last year, so they had a tremendous 2-year run. And I believe there were 7 girls who earned all division, and then we have a few with some additional awards. So earning all division, Julia Marks, Anya St. Martin, Katie Volpert, and then we have 3 or 4 other girls. I want to say a little bit more. Rebecca Ochan, who is not here, not only was all division, but for the second year in a row, she was 3rd team all state. So great job by Rebecca. Bailey Nestor, also for the second year in a row, she was all division, and she was the Coaches Award winner on the team. She had a great season. I do think we have the next 2 here. Gabriela Sanchez was all division for the second year in a row, also co-MVP of the team. And a lot of times the defenders don't get recognized, but For me, and I think a lot of people that we played understand that she probably should have been at least all-county or possibly even all-state. She did a great job in the back. She was a rock, and she did a fantastic job, and she had a wonderful career here at Highland Park. And I'd like to call Gabriela Sanchez up for the All-Division Award. Last but not least, someone I know pretty well. She's a pretty good soccer player. She's a 4-time All-Division, 2-time All-County, 2-time All-State, first-team All-State this year. She set a school record for goals, set a school record for assists, and she's had a wonderful career here. And I'll certainly miss her watching her play. So, Elizabeth Gerben. We also have a few awards for the football team. Although we did not have a successful season as a team, we did a few of the seniors, and the kids did a nice job persevering in a tough season. We had 2 award winners. Kyle Hagan was named All-Division, and Jalen Smith was named All-Division and All-Conference for football. Great accomplishment for those 2 guys on a team that was shorthanded, and they did a fantastic job, really sticking it out and playing very well throughout the season. So, two for Jalen and Kyle. And that's it for the Fall Sports Award. Hopefully there will be many awards for the winter and spring season. Thanks.
I just want to personally thank Coach Gervin, our athletic coordinator. We really couldn't have the program that we have without him. So please give him a round of applause for all he does behind the scenes making this all work. I am incredibly proud of all of you. We are a small school, and for us to be competing where we're at is just fantastic, and it shows the true dedication you all have to your sports. We have some academic awards, though, that I want to give out as well. We have 3 young men who have distinguished themselves so much in regards to how they perform in our virtual business challenge. In fact, they went out, they convinced Ms. Churko that we needed not only the retail virtual business, but the restaurant virtual business. And please correct me if I'm wrong. This was our first time competing in that particular challenge? Yes or no? No? Okay, well, this is the first time we've had this software, I think, easily available for you guys to work on. And they took first place in the North Atlantic Virtual Business Restaurant Challenge. They're going off to the Nationals in Georgia. Max Schiffman, Eric Chen, and Andrew Shi. Come on up.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. At this time, we're going to move forward to the business portion of our agenda. So those of you who would like to head out, now's your time. We'll take a 30-second break while you exit. Have a great night.
No, you're not allowed.
I won't do
Not
anything
allowed.
back.
There's also a
Oh, yeah.
Right. You know what?
The door's much better.
It's automatic.
Gonna wait a minute for Linda to come back.
On the other hand, you eat it voting inside there. Nothing exciting
We're just gonna wait a minute for Linda to come back.
Fell.
You can't do anything if that's not here.
And he couldn't be.
Okay, we will get started with our committee reports. Michelle, could you give the curriculum and instruction report?
Yes. Item number 1 is approval of field trip requests. Item number 2 is approval of the October HIB incident report. Item number 3 is a new course in the high school, and we're voting on ceramics 2. Number 4 is approval of affiliation agreement with Rutgers. That, just to remind you, was the Department of Psychology Internship Consortium to restart the Bartle Social Emotional Decision-Making Lab. And that concludes my report.
Wow, we like speedy reports.
Speedy.
Does anybody have any leftover questions for Michelle from last week or Nick?
No questions, but I would comment that the field trip request for board approval misprinted for tonight's meeting. If you look on the packets that were handed out, but the totals are, as far as I can tell,
The
are
printed
correct.
or what was on our
I
drive?
think the one on the drive is also a little off. I had it open a minute ago. But if you look at the previous weeks, the December 11th, it all lines up.
Oh, I have my wrong folder.
What part of the report do you think is off?
No, I don't think any of the report is off, but if you look like the line for, like you see the total, but you don't necessarily see how much is for bus and how much
I
is
see.
for admission. So the printing of it is off. But the December 11th report.
Was okay.
If you look at that report, it lines up.
Okay. But everything looks like it's still okay,
Yeah,
other than a
everything looks like it's-
misalignment in the
yeah.
printing? Okay. Okay, so if nobody has any questions about curriculum and instruction, we'll move on to finance and facilities with Mark.
Yes, thank you. We move closer. Yes, thank you. So we did go through this last week. As I suggested at the time, we have new bill lists, athletic bill lists, and cafeteria bill lists. So these are just getting up to date for the end of November or into early December. That's items 2, 4, and 6. There's a approval of the treasurer's report, which is new. It's accepting the recommendation the superintendent approve the preliminary report of the treasurer of school monies as of September 30th, 2017. The approval of the board secretary report, October 31st, that no budgetary line has been overextended. And then the certification that there's sufficient funds, item 10, through the rest of the year. And then there's budget transfers in item number 11, which is also new. Items 12, 13, and 14. 15 were all covered last week, as was number 16, which is the removal. We're going to vote for removal of a student for non-residency, which we've discussed, the residency requirements and the certification of residency by residents of Highland Park whose children go to our schools. There's 17, 18, 19 we went through, that's new equipment. 20 is new equipment, as is 21, which again we went over. And then 22, we discussed slightly last week, the tree dedication program for the borough. This is giving the borough access to include schools and trees in front of our schools for that program, to put a plaque for somebody on our trees. And then another new item is the recommendation of the superintendent to approve advertising requests for proposals for custodial and management services for a multi-year contract beginning July 1st, 2018. So that's the full report.
Okay, wonderful. Does anybody have any questions for Mark?
Just under 12, approval for professional services, David Rubin. It says November 30th, 2017 to June 30th,
Yes, that's a mistake.
2017. Yeah.
So that should be
so it should be
changed to
2018.
2018. Thank you.
Is that the residency?
No, that's actually, David is actually conducting the investigations.
Oh, okay, okay.
So it just needs.
We don't
the date.
anticipate it'll go till
Yeah,
June,
yeah.
but we
Okay.
keep it open in case necessary.
Okay.
One question on number 16. Is this something that the board normally votes upon? Or is it?
That's a good question.
Because looking at it, it looked like there was all sorts of different procedures that the board needs to take, or not the board, the district needs to take in terms of notification and 21 days, et cetera, but I didn't see anything that really required the board to approve the removal. You know, we don't necessarily.
The board
vote.
attorney recommended that we actually have a resolution on the agenda because for this particular case, because of the nature of the case.
Oh, it was at their recommendation? Okay.
Correct.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Could I hop in? I'm sorry. On the, back to number 12, with regard to David Rubin at $180 an hour, do we have any sort of limitation on the number of hours that he could work? Could he work 1,000 hours or 2,000 hours or
I think it's
100
highly
hours?
unlikely.
No, but is there a limitation on the number?
There isn't one stipulated, but it shouldn't clearly be anything.
Is there an agreement with him that, of any sort?
Just to conduct the investigation as warranted.
I can't speak for him or his law firm, but I can say that, there's a certain reasonable amount of work that when you hire an attorney, like you don't expect.
Michelle, can you check your switch?
Oh,
Make sure
is
it's
it?
on.
There it is.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you ever get an estimate, but there's some reasonable amount.
Well, I understand from his end. I'm wondering about from our end of putting some sort of a cap.
Honestly, I don't know how we would do that because we don't know what the investigation is going to entail as he gets into it, so.
Okay. So I'm going to vote no on that.
Okay. Any other questions for Mark? No? Okay, so why don't we move on to personnel? Okay. Judy, you knew that though.
Yes. So, I'm going to go over some new things because I think I went over last week most everything else. So, we do have, sadly, another resignation. Number 5. The resignation of Antonio Olara, who is a para at Irving, effective December 8th, making his last day in district January 3rd. Okay, and then number 9 is the hiring of a full-time English teacher. Her name is Michelle Paxton, and she comes to us from a school in Old Bridge. So she's a seasoned teacher. Scott, did you want to talk about her at all?
Well, I could say a few words about it if you'd like. This is the teacher we are recommending replace Maureen Rexer. Fortunately, because she is coming from a parochial school, she's not bound to 60 days release. So we'll have her here in a timely fashion. Her director of the Cavalry Christian School gave her a glowing recommendation. Amazing work ethic, great asset to the community, serves as a mentor as much as she does as a teacher to the kids. It's a huge loss for their institution. And then he explained why he happens to be losing teachers, which I don't think is necessary for me to go into detail, but it's for obvious reasons. I mean, I'll say that we are seeing a trend in the parochial school expansion or closure movement, and that's bringing more people to our candidate pool from parochial schools.
Yeah, I think we have another one coming later in the agenda from parochial school. Okay, let's see. So we are also tabling number 10. Okay, before I forget to mention that. Number 21 is new also, approval of payment for attendance at the 6th grade parent orientation. The teachers are listed below. 22 is approval of WISE mentor training for Nicole Marioni, Craig Gervin, and Natalie Martin. Number 23 is the approval of home instructors, Mr. LoBianca, and I cannot pronounce the other teacher's name. 24 is the approval of middle school Title I tutoring teacher coordinator. We have a request for approval of medical leave, number 25. And then we also have an approval of an elementary teacher for Irving. This is replacing Rebecca Fittipaldi. So that is Renee Dubol. Now let me pull up. Renee's resume is on the drive, and this teacher comes to us from Hamilton Township School District. And Scott?
Excellent
any words?
reviews. I actually had a chance to talk to the outgoing superintendent who got to know her as a friend of mine. The outgoing superintendent from Hamilton. So excellent references. She is the teacher we're recommending to replace Rebecca Fittipaldi, who will become our new supervisor of humanities. We're trying to get her here as soon as possible, but she may have to be held to her contract.
Okay, then we have number 27, approval of maternity replacement special ed teacher at the high school, Eugene Tyrell. Let's see, number 28. This is the administrative secretary at Irving School who replaced,
Ms. Gardner, Fran Gardner.
Thank you, yes. Okay.
Who we're moving to the payroll position. Another great find. I actually interviewed Angela for the payroll position. She was one of the finalists for that position, and we chose Fran over her for a variety of reasons, but I actually recommended that Angela apply for this position because she was fantastic. Glowing references. She was like a fixture in her last principal secretary role down in the South. And so she's going to lend a lot of
And
great
she's
work.
fluent in
South or
Spanish,
South
which
Jersey?
is nice.
No, South.
South Jersey.
South.
As in Georgia South.
As in Georgia South, okay.
I thought you meant South Jersey.
South are we talking here?
You were so Jersey Central.
But I'm happy because she's fluent in Spanish, so I thought that's great. Nice
fantastic.
skill set.
Yeah.
Okay, and so 29 is the approval of a new guidance counselor who is replacing Kristen Alpag. This is Lisa Sanfilippo. And Scott, take it away.
Sure. Has some years of experience, which we were looking for because we need somebody to hit the ground running. Middle of the year, this person would replace Kristen Alpa at the high school. We spoke with some of her colleagues. Her background working in a school for special needs students who had severe behavioral challenges is a real asset, and apparently was in Long Hill as well. So we think she's going to be a great addition, not only to the guidance staff, but also to the INRS team. And who knows what other work she'll be able to contribute beyond just her counseling duties. We sort of get a twofer with her.
And number 30 is the approval of maternity leave replacement elementary teacher, Montana Burkholz. And then 31 is just the approval of substitute teachers from Source for Teachers. And that concludes our new items on the agenda.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Judy?
It's not so much a question, but we didn't get to hear a lot about the media specialist, Mr. Hanks.
Okay.
I think we might have
We talked about him last week.
We have this registered.
Maybe I was tired.
Okay, he's a new graduate. He's graduating this month. His background is in, actually in fine art.
Oh.
Which is interesting, in his undergrad. Scott, you interviewed him. What will you,
Sure, I can
anything
expand
else
if
you'd
you'd
like
like.
to share?
So he is a new media specialist. He'll be certified anytime now, but by before the break. His cooperating teacher said to us that he, quote unquote, gets children. He understands what children need to love reading. That's his passion. He happens to be a fine artist. That's his background. He went to Mason Gross for that degree, then went back to get his master's in library science at Rutgers. He came to us thanks to the coordinator of the MLS program at Rutgers, who actually called me about him, says, you've got to check this guy out. So we interviewed him. He was outstanding. We're really, really fortunate to have somebody at this juncture to be such a hopeful, strong asset.
I'm super excited about that. That's great.
Okay.
Anything else?
No. All right, that's it. So, Anne, could you tell us about the policy and regulation agenda?
Sure. We have one policy that we are voting on tonight. That is policy 8550, unpaid meal charges. I regret to say that I would like to propose a change to the policy. It's not a substantive change. It's just a grammatical / procedural one. So I realize this is a little bit not timely, but maybe I could read it to see if the board. It's not an interesting policy change. So here, this is the provision that we spent some time speaking about. If after the student has not, let's see, here it is. Okay, if the student is in arrears, the parent has 10 days to pay the full amount, then the parent gets another notice, and then if 7 days pass, something happens. And we talked a lot about what that something should be. Our options include not giving that student anything at all to eat unless he brings his money for that day's meal. We decided, no, we're not going to do that. We were going to provide the student with a meal, and we were going to work out later whether there might be some source of payment available for a standard meal, some sort of charitable donation or funding from somewhere, or whether the student would be given, some sort of, I'm not sure, less expensive meal. But we're hoping that that doesn't happen, though. In our policy committee, we spoke about trying to find funding. Apparently, the federal government will not reimburse us for lunches that are not paid for within the terms of the policy, so we have to figure this out. So I just had to make a long story short, it's that provision that I wanted to recommend a change in. The provision now reads, if payment in full is not made within 1 week from the date of the second notice, the student will not be served a standard school breakfast or lunch without payment for that day's breakfast or lunch, beginning the 8th calendar day from the date of the second notice, but will be provided a meal. I think this is the result of editing on Google Docs, where so many different people made changes, and then we realized that they didn't really fit together. I propose that we just change this to say, if payment in full is not made within 1 week from the date of the second notice, then the student will not be entitled to receive a standard meal as of the following day unless the student pays for that meal. The student will, however, be provided with a meal. Well, that's not very eloquent either, but I think it might explain a little better what's happening.
Good.
Do people feel okay about that?
Can you say that one more time?
Sure. Okay, so this is after the parent has received 2 notices and has not made payment within 10 days plus another 7 days. If payment in full, it's at the end of the second paragraph of the policy. Yeah. If payment in full is, not if payment in full in not made, that's another change. If payment in full is not made within 1 week from the date of the second notice, and here comes the change, then the student will not be entitled to receive a standard meal as of the following day unless the student pays for that meal. The student will, however, be provided with a meal.
So what's the difference between a meal and a standard meal?
A standard meal is the meal that, I mean, this is,
Is that, it sounds like we're sugarcoating the cheese sandwich.
yeah. I mean, I gather the issue is that the federal government will not reimburse us for a standard meal. So we need to have some kind of provision not providing them with a standard meal, but we had spoken about, aggressively seeking out funding so that the district can cover the occasional situation in which someone is in this situation. So in other words, we're hoping that the student will wind up getting a standard meal, like every other student, and there will be no cheese sandwiches, but we have not yet worked out the funding for the non-cheese sandwich meal. I'm also happy to table this and work out the funding now before we vote on the policy.
I say table it.
Yeah, that's...
No, I don't agree. We've spent so much time on this. We should just have something. And this is better than what we have. And we are sugarcoating more than one thing here, because we're not supposed to, I think, do any of these things in terms of giving students food if they haven't paid.
I think you're allowed to give a cheese sandwich if you pay for it. I mean...
Oh, if you pay for it.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, right. Either way, there's a funding issue. Yes.
How can the state tell us whether or not we can feed a kid if they're in school, hungry, and don't have money?
It's the feds. Yeah, well, the feds through the state.
It's about the reimbursement, not about whether we can give them the food.
And it's also about we're supposed to have a policy that tracks the statute in this way, the state statute. I mean, I agree. I don't like to have a policy that says the student will not be entitled to receive a standard meal. That doesn't send much of a message. On the other hand, most families don't read these policies until they become an issue. It's not like on the front page of the website. And we did commit to trying to figure out how we would pay for standard meals in the unusual event that a student is unable to pay for that day's meal and is in arrears.
I want to add to it that this is a slight money-making program for the district.
Right.
We're not losing money on this program, right? Correct, Linda?
Not at this time.
Right.
So there's an idea that perhaps we could use some of that, not at this time, perhaps we could use some of that money that could be transferred over to cover the occasional unpaid for school lunch on behalf of a student who is really having difficulty.
Do we want to be publicizing that we're in the red, in the black?
We have to.
It's too late.
We can't keep secrets about where our money's coming from.
We're so little in the black on this program.
It's pennies, I'm sure.
If we're going to change the words, I
No,
would
it's not
change the
pennies. I
words
mean,
to
it's-
make it optional the district. So somebody's 3,000 in arrears. I don't necessarily want to encourage, if there was such a family, I don't want to encourage them to continue to use the largesse. Could we put some optional words in that? The district may instead of will?
I hear what you're saying. I mean, I would not, I don't agree with that, but if the board does, I do want to say that, there are 17 days that have passed here, and I am trusting our administrators and our guidance folks and our child study team members and all those people to be, intervening. We talked about the need going forward to have a school staff member be responsible for following up with students who haven't been paying, rather than just a collections notice going out from the cafeteria people from Pomptonian, so that hopefully, if there's a problem, the school can figure out what it is, intervene, point the family to assistance. Hopefully, if it's a student who is $3,000 in arrears and really wants to have a cheese sandwich or perhaps a standard lunch, that situation can be dealt with before it becomes an issue.
I think if we say may, then that leaves it possibly up to the individual worker at the cashier, and I don't think we want to be in that situation. I think we want to make a direction of what our intent is.
And
That's a good
point.
point.
We did spend so many hours on this trying to flesh out words that are fair but don't take advantage. So I would argue not to open it to another set of discussions.
I just think what's
after
there is
months.
unclear, though. I think it's unclear. They won't get a standard meal, but they'll get a meal.
Or they may not get a standard meal, but they will get a standard meal. Again,
I said will not be entitled to it as a matter of federal law. I mean, I'm happy to amend this just to say, school, what school personnel shall contact the parents again in that situation, or we shall feed them a meal. I think guaranteeing a meal probably puts us in violation of the state statute.
I can't imagine we're the first district to be dealing with this, actually.
No, I don't think we are. I mean, I think what the policy committee thought, I have to say, obviously, I did not check this language carefully, but the gist of what we were thinking was that we would look into figuring out how to finance whatever this was.
And also better action about not having happen to certain families in the future. Like
Right.
trying to figure out why some families were in arrears and ones that were entitled to free and reduced, make sure they would sign the paperwork at the beginning of the
Right.
year, all that kind of thing. So we're trying to get more to the root
So-
of the problem.
Right, because apparently what's been happening now with there are a number of families that are significantly in arrears, and it seems that some of that may be the result of our outsourcing to Pomptonian the task of following up on parents who are in arrears. So we are hoping that if we, institutionalize having a staff person or staff people in the schools to follow up, we wouldn't have a situation where someone went on for $3,000
So-
enjoying the delicious.
Catch it at
Can I-
$5.95.
Can I throw this at Scott? Scott, based on the conversations that we've had about this policy already, have you thought about or implemented any procedural changes to the way the district is contacting families who are in arrears? Because I'm looking back at the report that Linda gave us on November 20th.
Right.
That, all told, we're looking at 74 students with accounts that are greater than $10 in arrears, a total of under $3,000. Like, we're not talking that we have, people who are $10,000 in debt to us, for school lunches. Like, and it seems like part of the problem may be the way that outreach has been conducted, that, letters are sent out to people that have 5-cent,
Right,
is there some way that we can streamline the process so that we're really reaching out to the families that seem to be struggling? And if, a kid has ordered 4 lunches and haven't told their mom and dad and has run up, a debt, that we're not throwing that into the pile. Because, I think any of our kids have probably done that, bought lunch when they got sent with lunch because they didn't feel like eating it, ha, ha, ha. And now, mom owes $15 because they've done it a few days.
Well, the Finance Committee instructed Linda and I to develop a letter that we would send out from her office, which I think you've already done, correct? To those families
Yeah, I
you're
just need
talking
to
about.
fine-tune it.
Go ahead.
I just need to fine-tune it.
Yeah, and we identified, I think, like a dozen families who were significantly in the hundreds of dollars, in debt.
We talked about various different
Yeah.
possible responses to
Yes.
that, from pursuing it assertively to thinking about whether there are any debts that potentially can be covered by the school, particularly if a student has already graduated and there is really the expense of collecting. So that was going to be left, I think, to the administration with instructions that we wanted them to consider all the
So
options.
can we leave it that we'll, Scott and Linda will follow up with us in terms of what they put in place? But for this, maybe the language can just be, that, while, according to state, it's federal guidelines?
State law.
You know what? That's what it. I have to admit, this got out of my control a little bit. I had a bunch of work, and that is how it was the last time we discussed it. I missed the last meeting, so I'm not sure what happened then. But
didn't touch it.
Okay. You're right. Oh, thanks. That's awesome. 2 meetings. It looks like this may have gone through some additional committee or administration editing. The way we originally had it was state law requires us to instruct that if a payment is not made after the 18-day period, blah, 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 blah. So we made it pretty clear that, or it might have even said NJSA, 18 colon, blah, blah, blah. I'd be happy to put that back in, and maybe we vote on it the next
Right,
time.
but maybe that we put a statement in saying, however, no child's going to go hungry.
No child will be left without a meal.
Yeah,
Okay.
The way I read it right now is that the only way they're going to get served a meal, and they will be served a meal, is if they have money to pay for the meal that day. I don't read it the way the only way I can read it, that last sentence in the second paragraph, because it's prefaced at some point with the student will not be served a standard or lunch without payment for that day's breakfast or lunch.
Well, we changed that. I'm proposing a change to that.
I think we were trying to
To that
tweak it,
text?
but I don't think it carried the way we intended.
Okay, I'm saying the student will not be entitled to receive a standard meal. I know the breakfast lunch thing is confusing unless the student pays for it. And there's a distinction that's been made by the editor in this case between a meal and a standard meal. I like Darcy's idea of going back to the state law, requires us to inform families that blah, 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 blah. However, in this district, no one will be left without a meal. So I propose that we table it. I propose that change. We look at it again. Unless we're facing some sort of trouble for being behind in adopting this, Scott. I don't remember if this is one of these ones that there's some sort of audit or we're required to adopt it in order to comply with some regulation.
I think we already have, one is on the books.
Right. I'm just trying, there are certain policies where we're supposed to adopt certain provisions and, there was a deadline by which to do it. I don't know if this is one of those policies. I probably should know, but I don't. So I guess, Scott, are you aware of any such necessity of voting on this policy by a certain deadline? Some of the special ed policies, for example, we needed to get them passed.
No, there's no, it's a mandatory policy. We already have one in place, so we're just now modifying it. And as far as I recall from Strauss-Esme, there were no major changes made to the policy. The law, the
This
statute?
policy, this whole thing is a major change.
Are we right?
Oh, I stand corrected.
So I believe we would need to have it in place before the school year is over, because this is CUSAC.
Well, the school year, for sure, but not like tonight.
I don't know, there's no imminent.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, so I propose we table it. I'll make some changes to the language. I'll notify the policy committee, and then we can all take a look at it next time.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, guys. I apologize for not having kept up with the editing status of it. Oh, thank you.
The committee didn't help you at all.
No, we didn't.
Okay, so if nobody else has anything further on that, we will move on to equity and excellence, but we don't have anything for that, I don't believe. We don't have Sharice, and no one else who's on that has any, nope, okay. So that would bring us to public comment. Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation. Is reserved this time for your comments. If anyone back there has any comments, nope, nobody's moving. Nobody's moving. Okay, so we will start to move through our agenda then. Michelle, could you move the curriculum and instruction items, please?
Yes, I would like to move items 1 through 4.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? No? Okay, seeing none, Linda, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
I'm voting yes on 1, 3, and 4. And then for 2, yes on A through N, no on O through Q, and then yes on R.
I'm going to have to, 1 second.
Sorry.
Mr. Marusty?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes, with one exception. On number 2, letter O, I will abstain on that one, please.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes on 1, 3, and 4, abstain on 2.
The entire one?
Yes.
Let me see. Ms. McFadden Nicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes on 1, 3, and 4. Number 2, yes on 1 through N. Abstain.
You mean, excuse me?
Oh, letter.
Do you mean A through N?
Yes, A through N, sorry. Abstain on O, P, and Q, and yes on R.
Mr. Roslett?
Yes.
Okay, Okay, could we have Mark, please move the finance and facilities items?
Yes, I'd like to, but before I do, on the item 12 that Rob brought up on the attorney services, I realized that just after we finished on finance that I'm very happy for the finance committee to review any ongoing bills so that we have an idea of actually what it really is costing us, and I think we should.
Sure.
And hopefully that will make everyone satisfied. So I'm going to move 1 through 20. I'm moving 1 through 23.
Is there a second?
Second?
Is there any discussion? I would just say on that matter that that's just, one of those unexpected expenses that comes up that we just need to deal with, but I agree, stay on top of. But these kinds of investigations needs to be done, and they need to be done well, and they need to be done by someone that, is trustworthy, and so.
And who's done work for us before?
Okay, Linda, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. Simorowski?
Yes?
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes on all but 12, and I'm going to vote no on 12.
The whole thing?
Well, you know what? Can we split up 12?
Sure.
Okay, then in that case, I'm yes on all of 12, with the exception of the one item that we mentioned, attorney services, unless we have some sort of cap.
Ms. McFadden Nicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to personnel. Judy, could you move the personnel items, please?
Yes, moving items 1 through 9, tabling 10, moving 11 through 31.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? No? Seeing none, Linda, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. Simorowski?
Yes?
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden Nicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Okay, Anne, you want to take us through the policy?
Yes, I'd like to move that we table the policy item.
I'll second that.
I didn't even ask.
Back it up.
I want to move it.
Out of order. Out of order.
I want to move it.
Is there any discussion? No. Nope. Seeing none, Linda, could we please have a roll call?
Ms. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. Simorowski?
Yes?
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner?
Yes.
Ms. McFadden Nicola?
Yes.
Ms. Pietrobono?
Yes.
Mr. Roslevich?
Yes.
Alrighty, we don't have anything for the Equity and Excellence agenda, so we'll move on to our board liaison reports. Scott, do we have anything from our student who's the liaison for the Municipal Drug and Alcohol Alliance?
They have not had a meeting since November 14th, so no.
Alrighty. Michelle, anything from our friends at HPTV and the Borough Public Information
No,
Office?
I don't think there's been a meeting.
Alrighty. Rob, anything from HPEF?
Well, the HPEF did meet during November, and it was an interesting meeting. The lion's share of the meeting really was not related to their activities, other than stuffing envelopes for raising funds. But what was, I think, beneficial about the meeting, Scott was in attendance. He normally is in attendance, but in this case, I think because there was the stuffing of envelopes, there was a lot of great interaction between the group and Scott, allowing questions, and Scott particularly to, update the foundation on activities, small, medium, and large, that are going on in the district that they may not otherwise be aware of. And can you recall any of the exciting most exciting things?
No,
that-
you got it about right. Stuffing envelopes. For important mailing, of course.
Yeah, and I will say, they are working on putting together the spring. They have one major fundraiser per year, as we know. That is normally in the spring. It's May or June, and they're working on that. They have not yet announced exactly what it's going to be, but it seems exciting.
Which brings me back to our lunch conversation. Maybe this is something for us to bring up both with HPEF and with the PTOs, this idea of helping with, families who...
the lunch.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, because I'm imagining, and I mean, I think this will go back to how we change our procedures with how we interact with some of these families. I mean, from looking at the report that Linda gave us, it looks like there are a handful of families that have a close to 100 or more than $100 balance. If these are families who, I can imagine there's this cusp where you may not qualify for free and reduced, but paying for your kid's lunch every day is still a hardship. And
Yes.
this may be a place.
They may have an interest in doing that. I wonder.
It couldn't hurt to bring it up
in
just as a.
Their bylaw, they have very specific bylaws in terms of how things become a grant, and we can talk about that at the next meeting.
It would be an interesting thing to bring up, and it also it's also something I've been meaning to bring up for a long time and haven't, which is the idea of having a liaison to the PTO. I know other boards do have send a board member to PTO meetings, so I don't know. Does anybody have any?
Actually, we have Student Congress has a representative on the PTSO, at least in the high school, and I'm going to be going there in the next
Will
meeting.
you report
so
for
I can
us?
come. Absolutely, I can definitely come and.
You just made my day.
I can definitely report on the lunches and what we can do about that.
Go, Olivia.
And the other organization in town that may also work for the lunches is the Highland Park Gives a Hoot. It's kind of up their alley too.
So,
That's right. Yeah,
good
so-
idea to bring the, okay. See, this is why we do this, people. This is why we have this part of our agenda. It makes us think of different community resources that we have that we can tap into, and we have things that are
I love
too
the
big for our little brains.
The brainstorming is excellent, which makes me think that one of the magazines that we get sent at home, one of those school board, I think it's this leader on the front cover. I'm kind of like...
Yeah. That's our New Jersey School Boards Association.
New Jersey School Boards.
Monthly.
Okay, so we get 2 or 3 of them, I don't know. But
There's a
that
We have a
one in
national one
particular-
too, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
that one in particular had an article in it on breakfast after the bell. And they also talked about a program that was, it was dinner that they provided students.
Yes, I read that article.
Did you? It was really like,
I did.
it was heavy on description of the issue. It was not heavy on solutions, unfortunately, but they did say that there were solutions available and that we could seek out funding, and that was, nice to know. I wish they would have given some more detail about that, but.
Concrete ways to get that funding.
Details.
Yeah, but I do think that breakfast after the bell was one thing that we had talked about, and I'm not sure if we had an update on the Bartle breakfast after the bell, or was it Irving?
It's
'Cause
Irving.
Irving.
that's having an issue.
So Irving is having the issue, and I wonder if, if we need a broader conversation about this issue, about students going hungry, because this was really the article spoke very intensely, heavy on the front end, about how students that are hungry are, having behavioral issues, academic issues, obviously, because they can't focus on their schoolwork, but behavioral issues.
Because you're crazy.
Because, and especially at that age, at Irving ages, these are kids that can't really come to you and tell you in words. They just kind of, would tend to act out. So that was my concern, was that, we're not doing enough to get breakfast after the bell at Irving done.
What is the issue at Irving? There's low participation? Is that?
I
No,
don't think
we're
it's
just not doing it yet.
participation.
Oh, we're not doing it yet. Oh.
But that's the intent, right? No,
Yes,
the
that's
intent
the
is to
intent.
do it.
Right, that's the intent, but I know that we had talked about there was some talk of pushback because the teachers might have thought that it was too disruptive to the day. But, you know, a lot of the students.
Well, I'm not hearing that at this point. I think it's just logistics for us.
Okay.
Talking about that last week.
You know, figuring it all
I thought
out.
that was brought up last week, too.
Last week.
Is that what Melanie,
The presentation, she said
Melanie-
she had
Melanie
heard
mentioned that.
Sorry?
that there was some pushback from some of the teachers
Melanie McDermott Hughes.
when she was talking.
When she was here last week.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's where I had heard it, and I'm glad to hear that's not a problem. I just don't know what's holding it up, and it was interesting that that article just happened to be in my mailbox.
Okay.
so Melanie's point was that individual teachers are potentially having some issues
She didn't-
about integrating it into.
Wait, I think she
No, no,
was just
I know she
talking
didn't mean specific teachers. I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean, she said Mrs.
She just said there was
Jones.
a general maybe concern about how the logistics would work.
So maybe their guidance is needed on how to integrate it into your morning.
A diffuse concern.
A diffuse
But that-
concern, yes,
that
I'm sorry.
The teachers from Bartle could, you know,
Oh,
could help
that's-
say,
yes.
hey, you know, we've done it
Because
here,
things were going
so.
so well
Right.
there.
Actually, Mr. Benjamin, so we already started talking about this as a leadership team last week, and Mr. Benjamin was very clear about how he managed it, and he has been actually a good model for us. So yeah, we're going to look to try to replicate it.
So is Mr. Benjamin offering to mentor the leadership at Irving? Is that?
No, but I will pull upon his resources and
Okay.
knowledge base to help me.
That would be great.
Yeah, we'll get there. The only thing that might challenge us at Irving is the fact that Ms. Freeborn's going to be out next spring. You know, for the spring, we have a relatively new novice
Right.
person in there in her seat. So
I mean, my assumption is that, you know, in times of transition, that's actually an easier time to get things to change. So I have high hopes.
Maybe.
it's an ongoing discussion. I won't let it go too far, too long.
Yeah, and if you want that article, I can share that with you happily.
All right. Unless anybody has anything else on that, we'll move to Judy with the Commission for Universal Access.
They were not able to have their meeting, they didn't have a quorum. It was supposed to be last week, so I have nothing to report.
Wow, we've never had that happen.
Yeah, it was only one person showed up, I heard, so.
Oh, no.
Everyone's shocked.
It was like everyone had an emergency and couldn't show, so.
All right. And Public Library, Suzanne was doing that, so now we're going
We
to have
do
to
not have a
re-
representative yet.
Okay.
Ms. Fittipaldi will probably go to the January meeting. She starts mid-January.
Okay, great. Shared services, I have not heard anything about that since we met, I think, back in May. So if I hear anything, if that gets called again, I will be sure to let everybody know. And last week we were supposed to have, moving on to CPAC, we were supposed to have Tara here, but she didn't, are we
No,
going to,
she'll
she's
come
going to
in
come next
January.
month?
Yeah, she's
All
still not
right,
able to make
She
it.
sent me an email at some point. She just wanted me to share that, again, that the approved childcare is helping the meeting attendance. The last workshop that they had on the GLOW program resulted in one student actually transitioning back to the district because of how impressed they were with the program.
Yippee.
So that's fantastic. I'd like to hear more about that. She said they added 2 new board members to the CPAC board, and she's working closely with case managers of high school parents to help them with, to guide them through the power of attorney and guardianship. And upcoming, there's workshops on special ed from the inside out and guardianship.
Cool.
So, little overview.
Thank you. So Sharice obviously is not here to give us an update for parents of students of color, but Scott and I did attend the potluck, when was that? 2 weeks ago?
Like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, which was lovely over at the Quilt Room, excuse me, in the Reformed Church. So that was I would say somewhat lightly attended, but a very enthusiastic group of attendees. So that was very nice to connect with some folks there. And then at the same time at the church, in the big room, there was a mole tasting contest, which was very exciting. So that drew a lot of interest into the other room to go
Wow.
taste mole. We didn't know. It was a surprise to all of us. So not only did we have the nice snacks that everybody provided for the potluck dinner, but then we had a mole tasting contest on top of it. So, but so there was some discussion about, with some of the various folks in the room about the upcoming 40th anniversary of the desegregation order and what that will look like next year and potential events that we can put together and, you know, keeping in close contact with the parents of students of color folks to, help create some events around that next year. So we will be sure, excuse me, when we appoint a new, when we reorganize in January as a board and we appoint a new person to replace Charisse, that will be one of the things that we need to do, is to make sure we have a liaison to that organization so we can start planning some events around that anniversary.
I just want to request that we put that on the next curriculum committee agenda.
Okay, oh, that's a
Because
great idea.
I really think that that would be an important thing
The
to talk about.
desegregation effort?
The desegregation anniversary, the order.
And can we, I think you sent this around to us before, the packet of
News articles?
of news articles.
Or whatever you said?
Could we maybe get, everybody get a hard copy of that?
Sure.
Because I think it was really hard digitally, because things are turned in different directions.
Exactly.
You kind
Yeah,
of
for the
need
next meeting, I'll bring it. Bring copies.
Maybe there's some way we could even get it before. I'm trying to think.
I have a way. I'll figure it out.
Okay. Yeah, it would be nice to have that, and for us all to I think as we go into 2018, we need to start thinking about what this is going to look like throughout the year, because I think it's and I think a bunch of us, who went to John Hume's film, the
Fantastic.
Blacked Out? It was amazing. And it just gave me so many ideas in terms of how we can tie the work that he was doing with kids and how that can be continued around this anniversary. And I mean, and the work that we want to do in terms of starting to detrack, and it all, I feel like there's all these pieces of a puzzle that are all kind of slowly coming together.
I feel like that
and
was-
that 2018 is going to be this year to really have some honest conversations about, how our district has functioned for a very long time and how we want to see it function going into the future. So
That movie was very powerful, and I thought that the discussion afterwards was even more powerful, but unfortunately it was disorganized. And it was so much coming at everyone at once that I wished that we could have a series of discussions following. I thought maybe we could do some organizing around that.
yeah, and I think that's what hopefully this next year will
Right.
be. Yeah.
The students were amazing.
They were
Yeah.
incredible.
Amazing.
Lucinda Holt is the key person with HP POSOC who's leading their work, so
Oh.
she'd be the one you might want to connect with if you
Absolutely.
have ideas.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So Anne, do you have anything for us from Human Relations?
Yes, the commission met on the 15th, and we're meeting again in 2 days. Let's see. There are no
Well,
big.
a few days before in the middle of the tail end of Hanukkah, before the holidays. That's an
Yes.
ambitious time to be meeting.
We'll see how many people are able to make it. Hold on one second, please. Okay, here we go. There are no sort of big policy issues for the board to address, but there's some community events that folks might be interested in. They're now sponsoring a book club. On December 7th, they had their first meeting. They read Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. And the next meeting, this is more relevant, the next meeting, for those who missed it, which is probably everybody here, it'll most likely be in March to give the library a chance to order extra copies of the next book, which will be White Rage, The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide. It's by Carol Anderson, and the New Brunswick NAACP may co-sponsor it. So look out in March look out for an announcement about a book club meeting in March. They're gearing up for the Martin Luther King Day celebration that they do in conjunction with the borough. Well, they are part of the borough. So they are trying to arrange speakers for that. Oh, and I believe POSOC is going to speak. There are going to be some POSOC organizers who will speak about integration and desegregation at the MLK Day celebration. So we might want to figure out what they're going to say and
So, yeah, I mean,
or
that
whether
makes
we
me
can
think,
contribute.
I mean, I think all of us, when we're at our specific liaison, meetings, should be starting to talk about this and should be starting to talk about different committees that we work with to say, hey, here's what's coming up. How can you guys be a part of this? Because I'm sure there's things that, could happen at the Board of Health, certainly things that could happen at the commission, so let's start talking about this. It also made me think that we may, even for January, and I can contact Gail and Susie about this, we may want to think about some sort of resolution that both the board and the borough adopt in recognition of that 40th anniversary, just to kind of kick things off and so.
That's a great idea.
I'll start. If anybody has ideas of what should be in that resolution, send it to me. So Scott, if you could get us all that, all of those.
Articles.
Yeah. And, maybe I don't know, maybe at the beginning of January, we'll try to put a couple of people in a room to brainstorm some ideas around that. Okay. All right. I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, you didn't cut me off, but
Sorry.
there are a few other issues. I can't remember actually if our student rep was present for this, but there's a great student rep, and either she or someone that she asked to speak wanted to remind people that the Women's Issues Club at the high school is collecting women's hygiene products. It's a drive that will go on until December 31st. You can drop stuff off at Unite Pharmacy, Safe Drugs, the Reformed Church, the Conservative Temple, Park Deli, and soon in the basement of Borough Hall. So everyone's encouraged to do that. Here's actually a policy issue potentially. I mean, policy in the broader sense. They are working on some sort of a substance abuse pamphlet that could be given to people in the community about, addiction support groups and other services that are available. So I don't know if that's something that we would want to connect with, Scott, and, add some stuff that's particularly directed at youth. The contact there is Dina Stevens, who's a parent and a psychologist. If there's interest in reaching out to her, or maybe someone at the Teen Center wants to, we could maybe help them with some resources and make sure that we know about all their resources. No. And was there anything else? One moment, please. That is it. Thank you.
Okay. Mark, what do you have for us from the Board of Health?
They did meet. I was unable to attend that night at the very last minute. I asked Diane Heimlich, who's the chair, to email me with any issues that was school-related, but she did not, so I assume they did not discuss anything that required immediate action. Often I get items that I pass on to either Scott or Linda. So we're meeting again January 11th, and so that will be in time for our voting session a month from now, and I should be able to report then on anything that's come up.
Okay. Sounds good. Rob, anything you could possibly add on top of what Melanie had to say last week?
No, not really.
Okay. I don't have anything from school boards. I'll have to take a look and see when the resolution cutoff is for the next delegate assembly, which would be in May. I believe it's sometime in February. So, anything anybody wants to put forward, let me know. And Rob, anything interesting for Middlesex County School Boards?
Not at this time.
All right. So I don't have anything tonight under my president's report. And under old business, we just put Sharice's resignation. Obviously, we are working towards filling that seat. The notice has been put up on the district website. Has the notice already gone into the paper, Linda?
It went in on Wednesday.
Wednesday, all right, wonderful. So that's been put in our paper of record. I contacted Council President Susie Welkowitz and Mayor Gail Brill-Mittler about the borough helping us get the word out. So they printed up the notices, put it at Borough Hall, got it to the library and in the kiosks up around town. So we're trying to do what we can to spread the word about it. Linda, you said you've already gotten a couple of emails.
I've received 2 emails of interest, and I'm not sure if we've received anything by in hand or in mail.
Okay, all right. So we'll at least have some candidates to interview. The deadline was December 21st for folks to put in their information. And just for the record, I'll read it again. That this is for a board member vacancy, the term of which is January 3rd, 2018 to December 31st, 2018. And you must be a resident of Highland Park. And let's see, you must submit a letter of interest and resume no later than 10 a.m. on Thursday, December 21st, 2017, and that goes to our board secretary's office, Ms. Linda Hufala, at 435 Mansfield Street, Highland Park, New Jersey, 08904. And you will be, any applicants will be, or not any applicants, anyone who is successfully appointed would be subjected to a criminal history background check, and a financial relative disclosure form will need to be filled out. And we'll be interviewing candidates at our meeting on January 3rd, 2018, at our public board meeting. So board members, what we're going to have to do before we do those interviews is come up with the questions that we want to ask. We had a set of, I think, 3. I went back and looked at the, when we interviewed Mark and Judy. The 3 questions that we used then, you know, we may not actually, you know, going back and looking at them, we may not actually find them all that terribly interesting. I don't know.
What's your favorite color?
So we'd be able to, could we do that at that meeting? We could recess into close to come up with a few questions, right?
Yeah.
After we reorg.
You're all board members.
So we don't have to reorg.
So you can meet in executive session prior to the board meeting.
Fabulous.
So
Okay.
you can, you can recess to executive session.
Like we normally would.
At the 6:30.
Okay, so
And
why
then
don't we
goes
plan on doing that? Because I'm assuming we probably won't have all that much for the January meeting. We can
Not that
take
one.
that, we can take that hour beforehand to take a look at resumes that we, although we'll get the resumes ahead of time, they'll be on the drive, but we can, you know, take a couple minutes to go over them, look at the questions that we had for last time, see if we want to use those, come up with new questions, what have you, and then we'd come back out into open session. We have to reorganize. And then we'll interview candidates. So that part will happen in public. After all of those interviews are conducted, then we would go back into close. We can discuss candidates' qualifications, and then back out into open. And then we have to have nominations. So someone will have to nominate someone, but we can actually also have multiple nominations. So, you know, if we don't all agree on who we want to be, the, you know, different people can be nominated, but then each of those nominations have to be voted on by the full board.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are we going to have enough time to come up with new questions if we're reviewing the old questions in close that night?
I don't think it would take us terribly long.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a few questions, and you know, we may look at them and think that they were okay, and we may look at them and think, maybe we want to tweak this one a little bit, or maybe we want to add something based on, you know, what we know is going on next year, or, you know.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I mean.
I'm just thinking about like specific things, you know, that we might want to ask that weren't really relevant or weren't happening.
Yes, no, exactly.
You know,
Right.
But maybe preparing something ahead of time.
I think we can do it. We're pretty good at working in a pinch. We can get a lot done in an hour while we.
Yeah, but if we think
eat
of something
hummus and
ahead, we
bubble
should bring our question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it ahead of time. If you have a question you want to propose, just bring it and throw it out on the table, and, you know, we'll see if we can all agree on a few of them.
Okay.
And January 3rd is when we also determine our president. So we have to do all of this with a new member prior to making a determination of president?
No, we'll reorg first.
We'll reorg first?
Correct.
Okay.
Could student reps also have a question, possibly? Like, can we prepare a question as well?
I like that.
I like that monkey wrench you threw.
I don't see why not.
Absolutely.
Does somebody have the old questions from last
But
time?
it's one question for
Mail them to us.
all 4 candidates.
Okay.
So if there's a particular question you think would be, you know, you and Julia think would be pertinent on behalf of the student body, can you just send it to me and Dr. Taylor beforehand?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Linda?
Oh, that's exciting. I
That's
love
great.
that.
That's a good idea.
And do we have the old questions we were asked?
Yeah.
Does someone have a copy, and could you mail
Yeah.
them to us, all of us, so we can look at them?
Yeah. If
Prep.
Linda doesn't have them, I can
Fine.
transcribe them from the old meeting, because I am that goofy that I went back and watched it. You all did fabulously. I had to point you again. Just so you know.
Thank you.
You were fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Knowing everything you know now, you do.
Are we
I feel better.
required to appoint someone, or can we vote no on all the candidates? And this is just a hypothetical.
Then it goes to the county superintendent. if the board is unable to decide on a candidate within a particular time frame, which I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's not a particularly long period of time, then it goes to the county superintendent to appoint someone.
Wow.
So,
Get those letters in.
I agree.
Let's agree.
Beat me to it. Get them in.
So you have to have the amount that with sureties, that's the number you have to have. You can't have less than that.
Fascinatingly enough, though, the state board doesn't have to. And Governor Christie ran the state board for months without a full board, but we're not allowed to.
He can do whatever.
And then at the very last minute, threw a bunch of people on there so Phil Murphy can't. Ta-da!
That's right.
And Steve Sweeney let him.
Yeah,
Cheers!
Cheers.
Cheers to our
I
state
have a Sweeney
legislature.
hat, a baseball hat.
I'm
for
sorry.
you, by the way.
Sorry, I just got a little sassy there. It's late and I haven't been feeling well today. Okay, we don't, does anybody else have any other questions about the appointment? Okay. Anybody have anything for new business? No? No? Okay. Public comment, last chance. Nope, nothing. Okay.
Wait, okay.
Yes,
Sorry.
you do.
No, you don't. No, you don't. I forwarded something to Scott about a free online course, and I thought I would share it in new business.
Okay.
It's a webinar.
It's a webinar, yeah. So you can be in
3 parts.
pajamas and do this.
For students, board members?
Well, I thought it would be
Staff?
good for board members, staff,
Up to anybody.
people at home, pretty much anybody, students. It's called Exploring Race, Racism, and Equity in Education. And I have the link. It's through eventbrite.com. I found this actually on Facebook. It was posted by AWO in Jersey City Schools. And it's run by the Education Minnesota Connect Communities. And, excuse me, they run from December to June. And they have different topics that they tackle. December 11th, their topic was What is FIRE, F-I-R-E, featuring Jen Cohen. FIRE is Facing Inequalities and Racism in Education. February 12th is upcoming, that you can still register for all of these for free. February 12th is What is the School to Prison Pipeline? April 9th is What is Systemic Racism in Education? June 11th topic is What is Equity in Hiring Teachers of Color? So to join any of these online communities, you can go to mynea360.org.
Say that one more time.
mynea, so it's my lowercase capital letters NEA360.org.
We have 5 members of our leadership team, including myself, participating.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you can pick and choose
Do they
some or
archive it
all.
so that you can watch a different time, or do you have to watch it?
I think I think that they're available. Once they're done, they're
available.
yeah, archived or however, so that you can revisit them. But I thought since it's free, it would be great to,
Thank you, Michelle.
publicize it.
Fabulous.
Wow.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm assuming still no public comment. And so can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night, everybody.
Oh my
See you in 2018.